Hello everyone and welcome to and it's time for us to continue Franchise Hockey Manager 6. Loading screens. Yes! I will always make those comments because why not? I do enjoy this time that we get together every time we start this game. This moment we can share together while we wait for this to finish loading. It's a good time to... Oh, we're in! Okay. Alright, let's see. We've looked over a lot of the stuff that I've wanted to. Checked the roster, the lines, the tactics, the depth chart. We looked at the schedule, the history, trade offers. We haven't looked at staff scouting or training yet. The training is probably going to be the most important. Let's get in here really quick because what I want to do is actually click on this training tab over here, and we're going to go over to our action menu actually, and we will have the AI assign scouts. Why do we want to do that? Because I don't really want to be bothered with this. So that's the nice thing about this is you can assign a lot of stuff over to the AI in this. In fact, let me go back to our home page on the manager screen. And let's see here, is it under manager options, I believe? Yes, over here. So we can see setting training, we can change from my coach, GM, Peter DeGreat, over to the assistant. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I don't want to control either of our farm teams. If you want to, then you can definitely do that in your game. And as I'm in here, I don't really care about the World Cup, the World Championship, or the Olympics. I just really want to know the NHL news, the Avalanche news, and playoff news because I'm assuming we'll get there to the playoffs. That said, the assumption has to be made real. You know. So let's get back over here, and this. Let's see on here. We can look at our staff really quick. We have Stan Kroenke as the team owner, and he's getting paid nothing because he actually is the owner who pays everybody else. There you go. He's been the owner for a long time for the Colorado Avalanche. Excuse me. He's been the owner for a long time for the Colorado Avs. So then we've got the main coach GM. That's moi right here, and it says I'm 30 years old because I gave the fake birth date. See, I know what I'm doing. But I get to be known internationally, which means I think I can actually take over the US team at some point if I wanted to, for things like the Olympics and things like that. But I'm not planning on doing that. I really just want to stick to the NHL this time around. Maybe later, because I do want to unlock all the achievements. Then at some point in the future, I will be more than happy to take over the US team and lead us to World Champions, because I'm pretty sure that is an achievement somewhere along in there. So, and then this is I think that's it. And then, so staff and scouting and training. Yeah, so we've done all of these. We've pretty much looked at all of these through the different tabs. Check what they say for salary obligation. So this is just the breakdown per year of what we have to pay various people, and this will actually show us here whether they're unrestricted free agents like Mikko Rantanen will be, or if they are restricted free agents like Burakovsky. What's the difference between those two? One starts with an R and the other starts with a U. So we'll get into more of that later. Speaking of later, let's go ahead and go to the very next day in our list here. So right now it's going to simulate through what happened for all the other teams this day, and if there were any games, then they would have played some. You could actually see behind it flashed some things on there, and if we go to the NHL, we can see this is preseason, so I don't think anything will show up. Yeah, correct. Nothing will show up on here. Is it history? No. Wait, there we go. So that gives a history of everybody in the league there. But this is what I wanted, is the schedule, and this shows today's schedule. And if we want to, we can actually go through and view all of these games, except for this one, where we only have the option to play it. Now, why would it be useful to view it? It would be useful for us to get a sense of the opposition. But these are all still preseason games, and as long as it already is going to be, well, as I go through the Colorado Avalanche on this, I don't really want to go through and view all of these games on this playthrough. However, I probably will do so at some point when I'm playing my offline games with my other account. Anyway, let's go back up to the Colorado Avalanche. Get back. I guess what we'll want to do is really go back to our manager home screen now that I think about it, because we got some new news. We'll go to the news button here, and what we've got from here is a couple of well, I guess one player that needs to be assigned a number. So that's the first one that we see here. This little exclamation point does indicate that we have to do this one, I believe, before we can continue, because this is something that must be done. He needs to have a number. Now he wants the number 7. Let's see if 7 is actually even available. And it is. So I will go ahead and assign him number 7. There's no reason not to. There are some times where you'll run into another player who already has a number. And when that happens, then this guy probably is going to be out of luck. But if we like him more than the current player who has it, we might want to go ahead and appease him and piss off the other player. Maybe get him to leave. Or agree to a trade or something like that. Yeah, that's really all that does. And it's behind the scenes where you can't really see it, so you don't really know what's going to happen. We've also got this training camp development report. So as we can see before we go into our first game, it says, as the team approaches the end of its training camp, your staff has prepared a summary of the significant changes they've noticed in your players. And this gives us attributes. It can be either positive or negative attributes depending on how things go. So for example here, Landeskog has gotten an increase to his determination. Grubauer has an increase to determination and then a +3 to his team player attribute. Ryan Graves has more determination. McKinnon gets more bravery. McDonald has determination, leadership, and professionalism. So he really did a good job through the training camp. Donskoy gets more leadership. Burakovsky has aggression and leadership. Zadorov has determination. Rantanen gets team player and bravery boosts. Kamenev gets professionalism, and Makar has stamina and bravery increases. So the only one that increased by more than one was Grubauer's team player attribute. Now we can look at all of the basic details here by hovering over the name. So we can see Philip Grubauer, he's a 3.5 star with 3.5 stars potential. We can see his stats from last year when he was with the Avs for 37 games. And if we want more details, again, you can always click on the name and it'll bring up the screen. I've showed it in a couple of other areas. Here we can see what languages they speak, and this is important if we're doing some of the international things, and things like the Olympics. This would be more important if this was an international league as well. But since we're in the NHL, it's not quite as useful in here. But you can tell he speaks fluent German and his English is good. He's also well known, and he's known internationally. And part of that's because he's actually a very good player. It says his injury status is currently okay. And then this shows where he tends to be injured at. The yellowish here is for durable, more brown or orange, I guess, for normal, and then vulnerable is the little red streaks. I'm pretty sure this is saying normal and vulnerable, so he's got minor vulnerabilities everywhere, but he's not fragile. That said, I do wish that this was in a different thing than just colors. While I can see colors supposedly well, I know my dad, for example, is colorblind, and I'm not sure he would be able to make sense of this and translate it across. That said, he might actually see it better than I do, depending on how they pick the color schemes. I also suppose it would depend on if he's red-blue colorblind or green colorblind. I don't remember which one my dad is. In any case, we can see the ability and potential. That's the 3.5 stars we were talking about before. It shows his ability here, potential here. He's okay with the team chemistry, and he's okay with happiness. So there's no pluses or minuses over here. As a goalie, he is a 20. So this is his position rating. He is maxed out. That's the best one. He would not do good at any other position. That's why he is a goalie. And then down below here, you can see when he was 24, he was with the Capitals all the way up till when he turned 26, when he was with the Capitals in 2017 to 18. And the Avs have had him since 2018 to 19. So this gives the minutes that he played, all that, the normal stats. If you're used to looking at NHL stats, they're going to be the same as on here. So I won't get into too much of this. But now that we're in the player, we can see his individual ratings. So again, with Grubauer, the goalie ratings, we can see his positioning, passing, poke check, blocker, glove, rebound, recovery, puck handling, the low shots, skating, and reflexes. And Grubauer's weaknesses would just be the lowest is 14 with rebound, puck handling. So those two are the things that we might want to get him to work on, or we might want to max out something like his reflexes. I'm not going to worry about that because I got the AI scheduled to his training. But if I wanted to, we'd work on some of this stuff. And we've also got his different mental ratings down here. So this is the screen where you would see all of that if you wanted to. And then scouting, we can check certain things in here. We can see, for example, he can adapt to new surroundings. He isn't known to be particularly dirty. Grubauer isn't quite a star, but is definitely good enough to start for any team in his league. And I would say that's actually a pretty accurate thing, although now that he is the starter full-time, then he's becoming more well-known. He's had a couple of very good games that have brought him some attention. That said, this year he's also struggling with a lot of injuries, so we'll see how it goes. And then, as I say, his game is a bit of a resemblance to that of Francouz. And yeah, when I first saw Francouz play, and now I have to use that word a little bit figuratively because I live in Colorado, and there's a current war between all the cable networks, and they're not showing the altitude channel, which is what shows all the games. So when I watch the game, and I'm putting watch in air quotes, what it consists of is me actually listening to altitude radio and then watching the clips on NHL.com. So I don't get to see the full game. It's very annoying, but that's the reality where there's a pissing contest between a bunch of corporations, and the fans get screwed in the process. It's not just hockey that gets shafted in this, but also if you're a Denver Nuggets basketball fan, you don't get to watch any of them either. So that's the world that we live in. But all that said, when I watched the first game, when I saw the clips of Francouz and listened to the altitude radio announcers on there, it sounded like he might even be better than Grubauer at times. I think, part of that is, Francouz is relatively new. In fact, let me see I think he might be in his first year for all hockey, but for the professional level, I should say. So he was in, I believe Czechoslovakia is what the CHE stands for. That looks like it might be. And let's see, he is Czech. So, yep, he's fluent in Czech, and his Russian is good. And I can also say I've heard interviews with him, so I know his English is pretty good too. So, anyway, all that to say, I think that his ability and potential is going to be updated after this year and will be better in here. They obviously gave him a starting position for the game, but I think he's at least his potential. Maybe his ability right now might be better left a little bit low, but I think his potential is definitely to be at least as good as Grubauer. When he is hot, he is on. It's amazing the kind of saves that he can do, and his goals against average and his save percent has actually consistently been just slightly better than Grubauer's. But of course, Grubauer plays far more games because Grubauer is the starter. Anyway, all that to say, the Avs have some great goaltending this year. It's not the best in the league by any means. In fact, I don't think there's been a shutout for the Avs yet with any of their goalies, with the exception of the game that Francouz got injured in after Grubauer was already injured, and we had Warner come in and that was a shutout, but it didn't count because Francouz had played for 31 seconds before his injury. Even though he didn't face a single shot, that meant that Werner, who came in and gave up 0 goals and would have officially had a shutout had he started the game, was not credited with a shutout. So that's kind of where the Avs are so far this year. Anyway, to get back to the point, like we can use him here. We can see the individual contracts that are on here. It tells us the cap hit, how long it's got, all of this stuff. So we can go into the individual players here to see that. Currently, of course, there's no season stats, but that will all show up here. I don't think we can actually edit much of the important stuff here, given that we want to have achievements in this game, so we're going to be limited. Like, we can't go in and give him super stats or anything like that. I don't want to anyway, just for this Let's Play. I want it to be a genuine Let's Play. So, with all this said and done, we're actually at the point where, if I go back to our home, we've got everything set up now so that we can play the game. And that's what I'm going to do in the next video. And one thing I will tell you is what I'm kind of going to do for this is I'm going to play this kind of as if there's a play-by-play announcer reading the text that's down below. I'm going to do the full game, at least for this first one. I want to get a feel for how the team plays within the simulation as well. And of course, it's nice to see it. It's going to be the preseason game. Some people might find it boring, but some people might find this entire channel boring. So, you know, you do whatever you want. Watch, don't watch, skip, do whatever. It's all good. I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to put on my best Connor McGahey impression, not with voice, but just his raw talent. He's the guy who does the altitude radio play-by-play calls for the Colorado Avalanche. So I'll do that in our next video. In the meantime, I hope you guys all have a great day. Peace out.